Welcome back to season 2, episode 2 of It Takes Two.
Wow, that's a lot of mouthful.
Lots of twos going on, but we're really excited for today's episode. It's called You're Not Ready for Marriage If.
Yeah.
So a lot of people going, am I not ready? I gotta find out why. We're excited you guys are here. We have a lot of good things to talk about today. But first, we have a segment, a new segment we want to introduce to you guys.
Yeah, so the segment is called Telepathy. So it's a game that me and Adrian have been playing a little bit with some friends. And so the concept of telepathy is one of us picks a number from 1 to 10, okay? And then the other person gets...
In your head.
Yeah, in our head. In my head, whoever's doing it. And then the other person asks 3 different categories. And what I have to do is I have to get Adrian, based off of the 3 categories, to rank them in the number that I pick. So for instance, if I said I wanted Adrian at a 10, and that's the number I picked in my head, and one of Adrian's questions was, what's a fun place to be in the world? Like a good answer to that would be Disneyland. And then so basically after every round, we'll have 3 rounds. She has to tell me what number she's currently at. And then by the end of the 3 rounds, after the end of the 3rd round, she has to officially guess. And I have to get her to guess the right one. Okay.
I love that we're playing this because we play this a lot.
I know.
And your friends do this a lot, and we're bringing it to the podcast.
Yes. So do you want to think of have a number, or do you want me to have a number first?
You think of a number first.
I'll think of a number first. Okay. You have to close your ear.
Okay, because you're going to tell them the number. Okay.
And your ears. You can't, because our listeners.
Okay.
Okay. The number is...
This is like...
Hold on. They have to hear me whisper. The number is 8. Did you hear that?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, listeners too. I get that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to ask me 3 questions, and I have to get you to that number.
Okay. First question is, name a romantic movie.
A romantic movie. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna start off with How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Ooh, that is a really good one. I don't think it'd be like the top, but I think I'm at like a 9, where I think it would be at.
Okay.
Name a date night dinner spot.
A date night dinner spot. And you are currently at a 9, you said?
Yeah.
A date night dinner spot. Are we talking specific restaurants or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Specific restaurants.
Like,
okay.
you know where we like to go and what we think is good.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to go with Matador.
I knew you were going to say Matador.
It's a Mexican restaurant.
Which is funny because I feel like when you were saying that, I'm like, in my head, I was thinking Matador is solid. Matador's not like super good, but it's like super reliable. So in my head, I think that's more of like maybe like a 7. So I think you're trying to bring me down. So I'm going to say like an 8.
So you're currently at an 8.
I'm currently at an 8.
Okay. Final question.
Final question. Name a wedding officiant that you've observed.
A wedding officiant that I have observed.
Yeah.
Well, this is hard because there's not that many that I've observed. I'm gonna go with. Oh man. That's a hard. I'm gonna go with.
This is not a fair question. Should I give you another one?
No, you can. No. Your question is question. I'm gonna go with Phil Urdiales.
Phil Urdiales. Okay. Phil did not do our wedding. But I feel like it's been a while since I've seen him do one. He did Jake and Ashley's wedding. But I feel like my number is still like, I feel pretty good about an 8.
Final answer 8?
Yeah.
It was an 8!
Get out!
It was an 8!
Okay, that is good.
Okay, now my turn. Now you have to pick a number, okay?
Okay, close your eyes. Close your ears. Are they closed? What are you doing with that? Okay, he obviously can't hear me. Okay, my number is okay. You're good.
Okay, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Pick a wedding month.
A wedding month. Okay. I'm gonna pick. Oh, this is hard, but I think I'm just gonna say November.
November, huh? That's not in the uppers. That's in the lowers for sure. Not a summer wedding, but also like, you know, if you're going winter and you don't go to November is, I'm going to go with like a November. Is there any worse month? Maybe. Oh yeah. I feel like maybe March because it's raining. I'm at like a 3.
Okay.
All right. A 3. Okay. Give me a celebrity couple.
Oh, a celebrity couple? Oh man, this is hard. Dude, I gotta think of somebody. Shoot, dude. Okay. I'm gonna say Harry and Meghan.
Wow. You might be trying to bring me down. Yeah, I don't like Harry and Meghan. That's bad. I'm gonna go. I think I'm at a 2.
Okay.
I'm at a 2. Okay, give me a honeymoon destination.
Ooh, okay. A honeymoon destination that I would say at this number would be. It's funny because like my mind goes to all these places, but I'm like not choosing them. Let's say. I'm sorry, I hate this for people listening. This is so annoying. Let's say the San Juan Islands.
San Juan Islands?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel
We
like
live in Washington, so that's like somewhere local.
yeah, I feel like if you wanted me down to a 1, you would have said something like Afghanistan.
My mind doesn't even go there for a
the
while.
fact that it's there, I feel like I'm at a 2 right now. I feel like we're at a 2 or a 3. But I'm gonna go with my gut, and I'm gonna stick with 2. Final answer.
It was a 3.
Oh!
I felt like islands might have brought it up a little bit versus like Cle Elum.
I feel like Cannon Beach would have brought me up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
You know, close.
I'm
close.
sorry. I thought there were worse people than Harry and Meghan, but I guess there are.
Not many. Not many.
There's fans get
not
so
a lot worse
controversial.
people that say, "Hey, leave me alone. I want my life to be private," and then they come out with a Netflix documentary. Don't
It's
even
so
at me.
cringy.
That is the most cringe thing ever. I don't like them. Also, Harry's kind of a beta, but that's besides the point.
Second son.
Second son. So, what are we talking about in today's episode?
Yeah, so we're talking about you are not ready for marriage if, and we have a few different categories of ideas that would qualify as someone or disqualify someone for this next season of life.
Yeah, and I think this is like when we are talking about marriage, we're talking about the most important decision that you'll make outside of salvation. Like truly, I mean, I've talked to people about this constantly, especially young adults. Like, hey, just so you know, if you marry somebody and you really don't think it through, like it could derail your life. And that's not a hyperbole.
No, it's not. You think about the person that everything that you do is attached to them. And so if you pick wrong, or if you pick someone premature, even, they don't have to be wrong, but they could be premature to being ready for that season of life, it's going to make things really difficult. And why do things the hard way? We really love being married to each other. We have so much fun. And I really just stand on the fact that I think we did things the right way.
I agree 100%. So we're going to be talking through some characteristics that, like, you guys should be thinking about? Do I possess this? How do I get there in a journey? And obviously it's like you don't have to have an A+ in every single one of these categories in order to say yes or no to marriage. We're just saying these are things to look out for
Yeah.
when you are taking inventory of yourself and saying, am I ready?
Yeah. So there's the first category is characteristics. If you have these characteristics, you may not be ready for marriage yet.
Yep. And that number one characteristic for care is one of them is selfishness, which seems to be, obviously, yes, nobody wants to be selfish, but
I think people think of bigger things like infidelity. People think of like trustworthiness. We're not talking about like the obvious does, but if you struggle with selfishness, if you can't put someone above you and their needs above your own, you are not ready for marriage.
yeah, marriage is about servitude. It really is a test of, okay, I'm going to put my spouse above myself in terms of priority and need. And a lot of people just aren't willing to do that. And they think that getting married means that the person that I get married to all of a sudden is hitched to my wagon and I get to continue to live my life. And now they're just a part of that. But in reality, that's not marriage. It's two personalities, two dreams, two visions, two everything forming into one. And
Yeah.
sometimes I can get a little bit messy with sacrifice for the other person.
Yeah, and let me just tell you, there will be seasons where you will have to sacrifice for one another, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, in the right timing and in balance. But are you willing to do that? Like, do you really want the ultimate best for them, or do you want the ultimate best for you?
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference, and that those things can go together. But if they don't, what are you doing?
And you
What
really,
choices are you making?
yeah, you know what you love in life with what you're willing to sacrifice for. And
Yeah.
so if you're not willing to sacrifice for your person, that means that, maybe there isn't a true love there. Maybe there's infatuation, but love has to have the backing of action and sacrifice. And so selfish people do terrible in marriage
Yeah.
because they're not willing to see the other people's point of view. We talked about the Better Love Assessment a couple weeks ago. And are you willing to look at your personality profile and somebody else's and say, okay, sometimes I got to lay this down and prioritize my person and live that way?
Yeah. So that is definitely a big one that I've seen a lot. Just people who are selfish. And not to say that you can't grow out of these characteristics, but it is something to be made aware of if you're with someone who's like this and you're like, oh, they're really selfish, but I love them.
Yes,
Well, do they love you enough to put those things aside?
exactly.
And I think someone can.
I think sometimes selfishness is like you aren't that aware of it in singleness because there's no test to it.
Totally. Life is about you. And
Like
that is
you-
totally fine.
You get to do whatever you want. You want to go on vacation and have the finances, then you go. You want to pick up a hobby of golf, you can. But
Yeah.
all of that when you get married changes because now you're prioritizing and you're serving another person. So if you're not ready to do that, then then frankly, you will have a tough time in marriage.
Yeah. So another characteristic, you are not ready for marriage if you are lazy.
You ain't ready for anything in life if you're lazy.
So true. You're not ready for anything.
There's a lot of lazy people in this world. I saw this reel and it made me so angry.
No,
And
no.
it was the life of a stay-at-home boyfriend, and it was just like this dude that's
A
like
boyfriend?
boyfriend. Yeah, first of all, not even husband. Stay-at-home boyfriend.
Oh, that's
He's
not a
like,
good
oh,
start.
I wake up, or he goes, my wife goes to work. She's a nurse.
Wife?
Or
Girlfriend?
girlfriend goes to work. She's a nurse in the morning. She comes back at 10. For her lunch break. She wakes me up on her lunch break and usually makes me breakfast.
This is like not a joke.
This is not a joke. Makes me breakfast.
And what are the comments saying in this reel? This is kind of crazy.
The comments were shut off. They probably shut it off because they were getting roasted
like
in
you
the
gotta
comments.
be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah,
Right?
and have to. And so it was hilarious because then wife or girlfriend leaves, and then he's like, I play video games for a few hours, and then I clean up around the house a little bit, and then she comes home with dinner, and then we eat dinner, and then we watch a show, and then she goes to bed, and I play video games till like 3 a.m. And it was 100% serious. And I was sitting there, I was like, this guy This man.
And I feel like a lot of times you do like a POV, like a day in the life of whatever, because it's something that people aspire to be. Ain't nobody aspiring to be a stay-at-home boyfriend. That is repulsive.
Yeah, some people do, but if I'm telling
The
you,
wrong people do.
if you are with a guy and he's content with being a stay-at-home anything, then you should not be with that guy because that guy's a bum.
And there's not just lazy guys, there can be lazy women.
Oh yeah.
Women can be completely unmotivated in life. And not every woman has to work. Maybe you're a homemaker or whatever. But if you're like a wife that wants to stay at home and do what? Like, where's your drive? Where's your ambition? Maybe like they have things they need to work through. Maybe it's just like, I don't know, even just like health, I feel like relates a lot to like different people. And like how they take care of themselves, which is hard work to eat a certain way, to work out, whatever, like being active. If like they're not able to take care of themselves, I feel like that's like the best depiction of laziness is probably like in a work ethic or like in your health. Like, I don't know, there's probably other ways to see it, but if people are like not willing to, like, I think of Kim, get off your butt and work. Like, you really want to be attached to someone that you are just like having to do all this labor for, and you're selfless, but like there's also a little bit of selfishness in that too, like not choosing to work hard.
Yeah, and marriage will come with even only more excuses to not do things.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're sitting there with somebody that you're dating and you feel the need to just like constantly like, come on, like, man, come on, let's like dream for your life. Like you can't, because
it's exhausting.
Yeah, you need somebody that's driven, that has, especially if we're talking a woman to a man. Like if you're dating a man and he doesn't already have vision for his life and he doesn't have dreams for the future, like that is going to be a very, very hard man to, you know, submit to in the aspect of marriage, because a man should be the one that's leading the charge, that's casting vision to the family, that's providing that type of covering. So if you don't see that in dating, you see that laziness, it's going to be tough, you know, it's going to be tough in marriage. And you want, one of the things that women want most is security.
Yeah.
And you'll never feel security if you're with a guy that is highly unmotivated.
I feel like even just talking about like the POV reels of like things that you want to aspire to, I feel like for a lot of like stay-at-home moms, you see so many reels of like, oh, here's like the lunch I'm making for their kids, like, and it's maybe overly elaborate, and it's like, okay, that's not always real life, but I think it shows like a dedication, like creativity, like you can stay at home and be a mom and like still be really driven. Not saying that that's an assumption people are not, but I'm just saying like you can be at home and like be super active, and maybe you're making a new sensory bin like every month for your kid, and that creativity and that passion is like channeled into your child now that you're not doing anything like maybe as much for yourself. So laziness is just like, you don't want to have to like poke a mule, you know, you want to bridle a horse. You want someone who's driven, who has dreams and aspirations, and like you and I are really similar because we think about the future, like we talked about last week. But I just, someone who's lazy, there is just like nothing more frustrating, I think, when you're someone who's really like driven, or has to be driven because of their laziness.
Has to be driven. Yeah. And it's like marriage does not make somebody more motivated. I think that's one of the common misconceptions.
It's almost like you get someone and then you just settle because you're like, well, now I got him. So now what? Why do I have to work hard anymore?
Yeah. I'd say more men become less motivated when they get married because.
And women.
Yeah, definitely. It's like we have this misconception that, well, they'll be different if we were married. Well, they'll be different once we have a kid. Well, they'll be different.
And it's like, so not true.
Stages of life don't change you. You change you.
Yeah. Like you have like these seasons of life, like if you're about to get married, it's like the sweating for the wedding. Like you're trying to like get really fit, and then it's like you get married and then like that stops.
Right.
You know? Why? Since you got married, is that not a priority? Are you not concerned with the way you look, with your health and things like that? Like why does that stop once you have them? So I just think like in these kind of trends and things that you see, laziness is almost like expected.
Yeah, you got to be careful of apathy.
Another characteristic I would say is people who are not teachable. And we talked about this a little bit before, but there is just like, if you don't have anyone that you're accountable to, if you don't have anyone who is helping call you up, like, and no one can tell you like, hey, you really need to like come out of this funk you're in, which is also not loveless to do that when
No.
someone's going through a hard time. It's actually really loving to put yourself out there and be like, you're better than this. Like you can do more than you think you can, you know, like having someone that is teachable, that can be told what's what. If you just can't do that, you're just not ready.
Yeah. Marriage, it does require a lot of adapting and growing. And me and Adrian have both grown a lot since we got married. The thing about when we got married, it seemed like we're babies, which is crazy.
I know.
But we have grown a ton because it requires that. Like, like the goal, right, is to be married for 50, 60 years. Like that's the goal. So if you're going to be in this for a long time, you're just not going to be able to have accountability and let somebody challenge you and grow you. And like, I think that's the difference between being, you know, a 60-year-old bitter person in a couple and then the 60-year-old that like loves each other. I feel like when you look at old couples, it's one or the other. They're either like just super bitter and just like, ugh, and their view of the world is so tainted, or they're just like awesome.
Well, we talked about this last week about conflict can bring you closer. And if you are having conflict and you can never be told you're wrong or like how to improve based on your conflict, like there's no resolve going forward, how are you supposed to continue? So I think not being teachable is a huge red flag, and like you are not ready for marriage if you are not teachable.
Yeah, everybody will have a season of life where they need somebody to poke a finger in their chest, and if you're not able to handle that season, then you should not be, as a man, you should not be willing to get into a relationship that's forever where you are demanded to lead. And as a woman, you shouldn't get into that relationship with a man where you won't feel safe. So
yeah. So there's like characteristics, but there's also practicals, which we talked about. Like you are not ready for marriage if practically you don't have a job.
Yeah. Listen, there's no excuse to not have a job.
No, like I just don't know how people like live. Like, how are you paying for food, for gas, where you live, like housing, if you don't have a job? And that goes both ways. Like, I just don't think you meet a lot of people that like don't have a job and like they both go get married and like what?
Oh, and also unemployment is not a job. Like collecting unemployment.
Oh my gosh.
Is
if
not
we have to clarify
job.
that,
We do. We do.
You already should know.
I'm not saying, yeah, you need a job. Like, oh, I've been looking for a job. Oh, really? Because McDonald's will hire you on the spot.
And they will pay you to do an interview.
And they'll pay you. Like, that's what I'm saying.
There
It's
is
like,
just like no excuse out there.
people think that they're above certain jobs, but the reality is if you can't get a job where you're trying to get a job, then the job is not above you. So you have to realize, or the job is above you. So you have to realize, like, just get a job. Go to 7-Eleven. Go to a coffee shop. Go anywhere and get a job. Like the fact that
It's a net positive. It doesn't matter where it is.
Some money is better than no money.
Yeah. And obviously if you start somewhere, like you're going to get experience and you can move up to wherever else you'd want to go. But like if you don't have a job, and I do feel like it's different depending on like where you live, because some places like New York, like public transport is normal. People don't have cars. But like a lot of other places in the world, if you don't have a car, like, are you guys going to take the bus to date nights? Are you going to, you know, and that's not normal where you live in suburbia. Like, what are you doing here? Like, if you don't have a car, you're not ready to get married. If you had a kid, like, where are you going to put their car seat? Don't put that on your registry. You know, like, you need a car, you need a job, you need to be, like, independently stable and sufficient in order to support someone else.
Totally. And that's not to say, like, you know, when we're talking about finances. We're not talking about you have to be bought what?
I think you're talking about finance. I'm thinking about the trend. I'm looking for a man in finance. Trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Trust fund.
Trust fund.
Like, we're not saying that. But we are saying, like, be responsible. Like, honestly, there are so many places out there that are hiring. I know that's true. Maybe it's not like your dream job. Maybe you have to prove yourself to work yourself up to something like that. Like,
totally.
You can't have nothing. And what is that? Like, Christmas Vacation. He's like, oh, he's hoping for he's waiting out for management.
Yes.
And like they're living in a trailer, like a mobile home, because like he won't get a job because he's waiting for management. When you're like, this guy ain't gonna be no manager.
Yeah, it's just like, are you willing to? And that's just pride. If you're not willing to do any job to just get money for your, for your family and obviously
Spencer
spouse.
built ramps for veterans and hated spiders and would
Yeah, I
always come
got
back with
yelled
light
at from
cuts
veterans and almost. My friend almost killed me or blinded me. It was crazy. But like, yeah,
You
a
do
job
what
is a
you
job.
gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. And yeah, me and Adrian, we didn't have a lot of money most of our
No.
marriage. You
No.
know, we were house poor, and it was. But you make it work. You work hard and you budget, and like that's what I'm saying. You don't need to be like, oh, we feel good with our financial situation, as in like we have a lot of money and we're saying no. I'm just saying you're trying.
Yeah, effort goes a long
Effort.
way.
Another practical is it's kind of season of life.
Yeah.
So I think it's wise to be mindful of like where you're at, and maybe getting married right now, you could do that, but like maybe, you graduate in 6 months or something's happening that like you can just wait a second and let the dust settle. I think people are like amped to like jump into marriage when it's like, hey, there could be better options of seasons of life and where you're at.
Well, when you just think like adding someone else to your life in that context is like a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, like you're in school, and I'm talking like college, like talking about high school here, depending on where you live and your parents let you do, but please don't do that either. I'm just saying like you add someone else, like their burdens to your life as well. And like I know what a class load looks like. That's a lot of hard work, a lot of reading and
Right.
writing and just like all the time that takes. And you want to start a marriage in that busy season. Like, is that really what's best for you? Like, I would say probably not. I think it's really, really hard. Like we both, well, I went back to school when we got married. Like I had finished some other things that I was doing, but that was really hard because a lot of my free time didn't go to you. And like our date nights we would normally have, it was like study nights.
Yeah.
And just like practically, is that what's best? I would say you're probably not ready for marriage unless like you have like a real plan to like steward your relationship, but ultimately,
Totally.
like, is that what's best? I'd say for most people, probably not. Like there are some rarities where like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm in school for 8 years versus like we're
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
like
yeah.
your 4-year basic bachelor's degree.
Right.
Like, can you really not wait it out till like that happens? Because then what comes after school? Oh, your loans have to be paid off. And then like, what does that look like practically for you in your marriage? Like, that's something that you should talk about before you get married because that's a huge expense that's going to happen as soon as you graduate. So I think in that season of life, like the more that you can hold it out, really just like invest into your relationship as a dating couple. I don't know why there's like this trend of like, I dated for a year, I'm ready for marriage in like the Christian community. I think that's wild.
Well, less than a year.
Less than a year.
We
I
dated
think
for a year.
no, a year and a half.
Yeah, but
I'm just
I
saying,
mean,
like, people will be dating for like 6 months and like they think they're ready for marriage. And I'm like, oh, that's like not a long time.
no, it's not. And like, I mean, whatever, you make your bed, you have to lie in it. But yeah, I think
But like, I'm just saying, like, what's the rush? I'm not saying it can't happen, it can't be successful, but like, what is the rush?
right. Yeah, I mean, besides can't not having to wait to have sex, I don't know what the rush would be. And that's why it's like 12 full.
That can't be like your reason to get married though.
No,
like,
I know.
It's a factor of like what you're excited about and like you should want to do that. But to say like, oh, we're going to get married, we just want to have sex. It's like, if that's what you're building your relationship on, like, I'm scared for you.
Totally. And like, it's not, I'm sorry. Like I'm very attracted to my wife. Like I think she's beautiful. It's like not that hard to not have sex when you're dating.
Yeah.
If you have good boundaries up and like, so like the fact that you can't like, well, we have to get married, otherwise we're gonna have sex. That's just like
Well, then you guys don't have self-control, and then I'm concerned about like what other boundaries you might break going forward.
Yeah. And so that kind of leaks into the other one of support and community of you just want to have a good community around you.
You want people that are excited you're together.
Yeah,
People
celebrating
who are
you.
going to, celebrate you, support you, be a listening ear when you need it. If you just don't have people that are bought in and like excited about your relationship, like why does that not make you raise an eyebrow?
Totally. Yeah. And you want that season of, you just don't know what you don't know. And especially in marriage. And like the first year is you're learning a lot in it. And so like to have people around you that you can lean on is really important. And it helps to be able to build that community. So it's not just like you two all the time, only you two. Like you want healthy community to hang out with still and to build that as friendships. So you want to make sure that, you know, one of the practicals is just like, hey, do we have good, like, are we going to be supported? Are people going to help us? The best way to do that is to be plugged into a church. And if you're not plugged into a church and you're alone, then it's 100% your fault and it's solvable. Like if you are alone in this world as a couple, that's on you. Because there's tons of people that would love for you to be in community. And most of those people are, guess what, at a church.
Yeah, it is crazy. I was talking to someone about this and I was like, they were talking about like wedding seasons or whatever, people having kids. And they're like, yeah, I was like really not wanting to go to a wedding. My parents like talked me into it. Like this season's going to be over for you soon because like, you know, soon all your friends get married and then you don't have any weddings to go to. And then when their kids get married, then you go to more weddings. And I was like, that's funny you say that. Like I am never short of weddings and baby showers and bridal showers because like my church community, like there's always new people that I'm meeting and people in different seasons of life that I'm celebrating. Like our community is so big. Like if I need anything, I know there's someone at my church that like I can call that can like either help, you know, with plumbing or that can help, you know, and just like so many different things. Like, yeah, if you're in a church and you're not connected, like that is on you. You do need to initiate what you want.
100%. And that's needed if you want to step into a season like marriage, which is a very important season. And it's a very critical like aspect of having community that supports you as you guys together.
Yeah.
And that's really important. So another aspect of, you know, kind of what we're looking at is personal growth.
Yeah. So I would say like, there's a few different things that come to mind when I think of personal growth. I would say if you are not over your ex and there is still like tension there with you and your person.
That's weird.
You are not ready for marriage.
No.
Like there was never a time where Spencer was concerned about one of my ex-boyfriends or I was genuinely concerned about one of his exes, like thinking that he wasn't over them or thinking like, you know.
Yeah, that's like, I feel like this is the most type of response, but you shouldn't, if you are with somebody, you shouldn't be in like constant connection, friendship with any of your exes.
Well, all the movies, it's like, oh, they finally get back with their ex, and it's like, oh, they were always meant to be together, and it's like,
boo.
It's just weird that someone would like, you know, leave them at the altar and go back to their ex, and it's like, because they're just like always in their lives, they're always talking to them and they're not over it. And like, I feel like that other person always knew that, but like never wanted to like admit it or address it. They just wanted to like think, well, once we get past the finish line, like they're just going to be with me and they'll be committed to me. But if someone is not over their ex, they are not ready for marriage.
That's right. And that's why I say Reese Witherspoon in Sweet Home Alabama is the, did I say Alabama?
Alabama.
Is the villain. And nobody will convince me otherwise. I watched that movie and I'm like, she sucks. Anyways, that's
okay. Don't get too excited.
I'm just saying.
All right.
But yeah, it's like, no.
First of all, she wasn't even divorced from her first husband, so she's not over it, or he's not over it.
Oh wait, they weren't divorced?
Not over. No, remember he had to sign. She had to sign the papers when she was walking down the aisle for her next wedding.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That
so
whole
if you're
thing's
not
messy.
over your ex, if they're not over your ex, if there's like jealousy there and for good reason, like you guys are not ready. You want to walk into this season with no sandbags, like nothing holding you back, no concerns, no question marks. Like you're walking into this with the most confidence, the most excitement. Like this should be the best season of your life. And if you have anything holding you back, you're just not ready.
Yep. And another good personal growth aspect of looking out for is parent wounds, which is huge.
Yes.
And, you know, when we say parent wounds, we're not saying that you have to have everything figured out. Of course, some people take years and decades, like just working through trauma with parents. And I get that. But I'm just saying if somebody is unwilling to confront the parent wounds, marriage will be extremely hard for you.
Yeah, and at least start the process. Like, you need to go to counseling. If you are a girl who has daddy wounds, like, that is obviously going to come up in the way that you interact with your spouse. If you're a girl that has mommy wounds, that's going to affect the way that you guys have couple friendships
Totally.
because you don't trust women, and vice versa with men. Like, those are things that you need to address. They're so foundational to your life, and if you just think that if by avoiding it, it's going to go away, it's not. It's going to come up in like more difficult ways than you can imagine, and your marriage deserves better than that.
That's why, I mean, I'm super thankful because I feel like from a relationship aspect, I see a lot of contention and conflict with like women and, you know, submitting to a husband and, you know, having that relationship of trust and all that. I feel like you have such a healthy relationship with your dad that I never saw. And like, I think I don't understand the issue that a lot of other people might have, because you have that healthy relationship. And even if somebody doesn't have a healthy relationship, you can work through that because it does project onto where you're at right now. And it will continue going forward, all the Devo time and this and that. And of course, like, the Lord can do anything in the hearts of people, but I'm just saying, like, the Lord also calls us to be responsible for stepping forward in developing ourselves and doing what's good for ourselves. And so maturity requires confronting those things in our lives, because without it, it's going to be constant friction in your relationships.
And I would say, just like in a similar idea, not like parent wounds, but just like unconfronted trauma.
Yeah.
And that could mean so many different things for so many different people. But if you don't address trauma in your life, it will come up when you least expect it. It's going to come up and create conflict in your marriage and your friendships in ways that you just might not expect. But at least start the process of your healing journey and invite your person into that process at the appropriate time. If you just let these things go unchecked, don't think that by avoiding things, it's going to go away.
Right.
That's true for anything.
Yeah, it never will. It'll follow you around until you deal with it.
Yeah.
And you know, the last personal growth thing is, it's a very important to have a faith, like a genuine faith in Jesus and pursuit of God independently on your own. And I think I see a lot of people, and a lot of people do a Q&A and they'll ask, like, how do I motivate my spouse to pray more? How do I motivate my spouse to lead our family? How do I motivate this and that? And it's like, the bummer is, you probably saw that when you guys were dating, but he was a good guy or a good girl. And so you thought, oh, well, I'll just figure it out eventually. Yeah. But the reality is, like, you're not ready for marriage if you're not leading yourself spiritually, because then when you get into a marriage, yes, there's leaders and all that. But at the end of the day, again, marriage doesn't change your motivators.
Yeah. Yeah, you're still the same you when you get married. You just now have someone else attached to all the other things that you're bringing into your marriage. And so if you don't have an independent relationship with Jesus, if it's, you know, if mine's attached to Spencer, or if I only go because he goes, or I do whatever he asks me to, I don't do it on my own, that's really like, you don't actually have a relationship with Jesus. You have a relationship like with his relationship with Jesus, and that you want that to be your own, or you want that to be their own. So there's a few things on that list that we kind of went through, like different characteristics, personal growth situations, practical things, but these don't mean that those things can't be solved. I just think that people want to jump into marriage thinking it's going to solve all your problems. It's not going to solve your problems. You need to solve these things before, and hopefully by listening to, like, you know, these kinds of things that we're, you know, just maybe spitting off here, you can take inventory, know the things that can be adjusted for the better of going forward, and knowing that you guys could have a healthier relationship by addressing it now and not later.
Yeah. And yeah, you said it perfectly. Marriage doesn't solve your problems. It'll amplify your problems. And so it's worth saying, you know, maybe if you're in month 3, 5, 6, wherever, and you guys are thinking about marriage, I think it's appropriate to have conversations. If marriage is on the table in terms of, I think that I would want to marry this person, these are appropriate conversations to bring up.
Yeah.
Hey, like, I know that you don't have a great relationship with your dad. I think that that's something that you need to I'll help you work through it.
And that's so loving. It's
It
not
is.
uncomfortable. It's not speaking down to someone the way that you say it like that. I think people are just like so afraid to address such serious things because they're like, oh, I don't understand that, so I don't want to get in the middle of it. But just know that like you're looking out for them and you're also looking out for you too, and like that's
Totally.
okay. Like that is a loving thing to address that. And if they're defensive at first, of course you may be poking an open wound,
Right.
but that's the point. Like you don't want that to be an open wound in your marriage. You want to address those things now. So that reaction might be very telling of where they're actually at.
Totally. So, yeah, we just want to help give a little bit of parameters if you're thinking about marriage with somebody or what to look out for, because marriage should be fun. It should be levity. We say it all the time, but God created marriage, and God does not create things that he intends to be terrible. He creates things to be beautiful. So we think that if you're conscious of those things, you can operate in that. And so we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another It Takes Two podcast. Make sure that you guys leave a review, like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. Share somebody to encourage them today. But we love you guys. We're praying for you. Thank you for being our Two Crew, our faithful listeners and viewers. And we will see you next time on the podcast.